Welcome back to yet another episode of Yash Dubel's Book Club. The book which we are going to review today is a book written by Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath. See you on the other side of the intro. So we have all heard about the story of David and Goliath. David, being the miner against all odds, wins against the Goliath. So what is this book all about? What we consider valuable in our world arises from these kinds of lopsided conflicts, because the act of facing overwhelming odds produces greatness and beauty. Underdog strategies are hard. To play by Goliath's rules, you have to be desperate. You have to be in a really bad situation that you have no other choice. What we think of as an advantage or as a disadvantage may not always be correct. So let's take an example of parenting, which the author has quoted in the book. So normally if you see parenting, you would feel that this is the graph you would follow. Basically, if you are poor, the difficulty of parenting is really high, but if you are rich, it's very easy to do nice parenting. However, there is a limit to wealth. So after a certain degree, there have been studies which have done that they do not increase the easiness or the satisfaction you get after wealth. So what does the graph look after realizing this fact? This is what it looks like. If you make anything about $75,000 a year, your easiness of doing parenting just remains the same after that amount. It does not increase. It does not become easier as your money increases. There is a limit to it. But then there is an interesting fact which is represented by another graph, looks like this. And this is the reality. Once your money increases, your problems start increasing as well. It's really fascinating. So what does the author say? The author says that money makes parenting easier until a certain point, when it stops making much of a difference. Wealth contains the seeds of its own destruction. People are ruined by challenged economic lives, but they are ruined by wealth as well, because they lose their ambition, their pride, and their sense of self-worth. We all assume that being bigger and stronger and richer is always in our best interest, but it isn't. The inverted U curve reminds us that there is a point at which money and resources stop making our lives easier, and in fact, they start making them worse. There are times and places where it is better to be a big fish in a little pond rather than a little fish in a big pond, where the apparent disadvantage of being an outsider in a marginal world turns out to be a disadvantage after all. When you are a little fish in the most deepest and the competitive pond, the experience of comparing yourself with all the other competitive fishes will eventually shatter your confidence. It makes you feel stupid even though you are not stupid at all. There have been studies which have shown that the citizens of happier countries have a higher suicide rate as opposed to the citizens of unhappy countries, because they look at the smiling faces around them and then they find that the contrast is too stark. And then the other thing the author talks about is that normally we think that we would be better off solving a straight problem, like a simple problem. However, making the question disfluent causes the people to think about it properly. They will use more resources on it. They will process more deeply and think more deeply about what is to be answered. If they have to overcome a hurdle, they will overcome it in a better way if they have to think harder. And that's what the author calls it as a desirable difficulty. An extraordinarily high number of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. One of the biggest examples is Richard Branson. As human beings, we are hardwired to seek approval from the people around us. Yet a radical and a transformative thought does not go anywhere without the willingness to challenge convention. The one trait in a lot of dyslexic people is that by the time they get out of college, their ability to deal with failure was very highly developed. And so they look at most situations and see more of the upside than the downside. The author has mentioned a lot of examples which are worth reading. Learning how to deal with the possibility of failure is really a good preparation to develop a career in the business world. The idea of desirable difficulty suggests that not all difficulties are negative. This marks the end of my book review. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers. Bye for now.